Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Brighton Town Board meeting tonight, January 24th, 2018. Always pleased to see people here in the room, but whether you are participating with the meeting right here in person or whether you are watching us on our cable access, community access channel, or on our internet live feed, however you do that, we want to make sure you all have the opportunity to participate to the fullest extent in this open meeting. To that end, all of the materials that we will be discussing tonight, all the materials that we have on our laptop, if you are here in the room, they're on the table in the back. And if you are streaming or watching us live, you can go to the town's website. And all of tonight's materials are available there as well. So we're very pleased to have you here. Let's start with a pledge to the flag. I'm going to ask Councilmember DePonzio to lead us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jason. In case of an emergency, we don't contemplate that, but you will hear our emergency alarm system. If you hear that, please leave the room and the building immediately. You can leave either through the door to my right, marked with the exit sign. If you go out that door, turn right, down the stairs, out the rear door of Town Hall, and move away from the building. Or you can leave through the double doors in the rear of this room, through the main lobby of Town Hall, out the front door of the building, down the steps, and again, away from the building. Now, if you are watching on cable channel 12 and there is a technical problem either with the audio or the video, please call Spectrum. Their number is 756-5000. 756-5000. We will begin tonight, as we always do, with our open forum. During the open forum, members can address the audience about any matter, whether or not it is on our agenda this evening. We have had one request, but after that, I will recognize members of the audience who wish to speak. When you are recognized, please come to the podium. If you would, please state your name and address. Please direct your comments to members of the board and not to the audience. You are always courteous, so I feel it's a little unnecessary to repeat that, but if you would, please be courteous in your comments, and please do not comment on individual personnel matters. So to that end, the project applicant relating to the proposed Whole Foods project is going to make a brief presentation on updates to their project. While they're setting up, though, I do want to just say a couple of things. On tonight's agenda, you will see that the town board is considering filing and accepting a final environmental impact statement, an FEIS. Now, despite the name, final environmental impact statement, this action does not conclude the environmental review process, nor does it constitute either approval or disapproval of the project itself. It really is a ministerial action required to be taken under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SEQR. And I'm just going to quote from the SEQR handbook, which is an informational document that the State Department of Environmental Conservation puts out. Neither the SEQR statute nor the regulations provide for a public hearing on the FEIS. But again, I can't stress enough, this is not the conclusion of the environmental review process. That environmental review process cannot be completed until findings, a so-called finding statement required under SEQR, is issued by the lead agency. Now, the town has already held, during an environmental review process that did begin back in 2015, the town has held 4 public hearings concerning the environmental review process, concerning the scope of the environmental review, concerning a draft environmental impact statement, and then concerning a supplemental draft environmental impact statement that was required because after that draft environmental impact statement, information relating to traffic conditions at the Clover-Monroe intersection, and specifically, among other things, signal cycle length was found. None of these hearings was legally required under the seeker process, but the town does believe that input is important to the process. Now, the other thing that the town board will be doing tonight is setting another public hearing, and that's part of what I mean when I say this is not in any stretch the end of the process. I will be asking the board to act to set another public hearing at our town board meeting on February 28th. At that time, we'll again take comments from the public concerning this incentive zoning proposal. We will not be taking any action to approve a findings statement or any final action on the project until after that public hearing is closed. And again, I cannot stress enough, no decisions have been made. No decisions have been made. There is no side deal, secret deal, or any other kind of a deal. Anybody that tells you otherwise, they're just wrong. We want to hear your input. There are certain things we are required to do under the law. And frankly, I want to hear the applicant's input because I have some thoughts about that we'll be sharing as well at the appropriate time. So right now, I do want to give Jess Sudol the podium. You speak for a few minutes, I believe, about some proposed changes to the project.
Excuse me, Supervisor.
Yeah, go ahead, Robin.
With regard to this proposal and this project, I am seeking to recuse myself.
Yes.
And so prior to these public comments being made, perhaps it is appropriate for me to leave the room.
Ken, do you want to, because...
At this time, since the board is not at this moment being asked to make any decisions, there's no reason for you to leave the table. When we get to a point in the agenda where the board is going to be taking action on the proposal to accept and file the FEIS, that would be the time that you would recuse yourself. So for now, I would say relax, enjoy. Yes.
But thank you for that.
Thank you,
Robin, and thank you, Ken. That is something we had discussed, and I had asked the same question, but I'll rely on council for that. Jess?
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and good evening. Good evening to the other town board members, town staff. My name is Jess Sudol. I am a civil engineer and vice president with Passero Associates. Here this evening on behalf of the Daniele family companies, representing them this evening is Anthony and Danny Daniele, along with their counsel, Mr. Jerry Goldman. As you very accurately summarized, we have worked with the town on the preparation of a final environmental impact statement. What I would like to do quickly this evening is go through some of the changes which are presented in that document when compared to the most recent document that was accepted by this town board, which was the SDEIS, or Supplemental Draft Environmental Impact Statement. Again, I believe all the board members have had a chance to thoroughly review the document, so you are familiar with the proposed changes, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I'm going to simply look to summarize them to provide a pretty basic understanding. The first thing I want to do is talk about a couple of the amenities that are offered as part of the incentive zoning application, specifically two of the amenities. The proposed trail improvements and also the access management plan on the south side of Monroe Avenue. First, the proposed trail improvements. This was always contemplated as part of the application. However, in the DEIS and SDEIS, the limits of the proposed trail and the associated improvement were from Allens Creek Road through the project area over to Clover Street, which was approximately 2,200 to 2,300 feet. Since that proposal, the applicant has chosen to significantly expand the amount of the proposed improvement, which is represented here on this drawing and inside the FEIS documents by this yellow line. So the trail now extends from the project site north all the way up, and again, just to give you some orientation, here's the project here, Monroe Avenue, 590, and the proposed trail extension, which now goes all the way up to and across Highland Drive. So we've gone from a half mile of trail improvements to a full 2 miles of trail improvements, where really now we're connecting areas along Highland Drive all the way south to where the existing trail ends, just west of the Pittsford town line. Now that trail exists there today, but is certainly not formalized. People do use it, but is not operating under any kind of easement or agreement. As part of this proposed project, we would be solidifying and executing an easement to really formalize that access, in addition to the improvements, which are the installation of an actual stone dust trail that meets the ADA requirements, which will be much safer, again, legal, and provide access along this entire area. One of the things that we project that the trail will do is actually provide the opportunity for residents to use it to actually access areas along the trail, and specifically our proposed project. Why is that good? Well, it has the benefit of potentially reducing the amount of traffic on Monroe Avenue and in the area for people who may elect to use the trail. With that said, none of the traffic impact studies or none of our calculations take any credit for that. That would just be an added benefit. Everything that we've done, is as conservative as it can be and doesn't negate any potential traffic from that trail, but we certainly suspect that will be an added benefit. So that trail improvement now is estimated to cost approximately $728,000, which isn't very hard to believe, although that is a big number, because 2 miles, as you can see on the drawing, is a significantly long way. The improvement includes formalized road crossings now, which don't exist today, with pedestrian markings and pedestrian signage, all of which has been reviewed by the Monroe County DOT.
Jess, can I just stop you
Absolutely.
really quickly? And I'm sorry, I meant to mention this before. On a related point, I received a letter today from the Nixon Peabody firm, counsel to the Neighborhood Association, making me aware, again, because we had been advised of this, that currently the trail, or at least what I'll call the public right-of-way, public easement right-of-way that currently exists across the property owned by the Daniellis had been blocked by a gate or fence, and the public has not been able to access that for some time. I brought that to the attention of the applicant, and they have advised me that they will remove so much of that gate fence. There are gates at each end to permit pedestrian and bicycle access across that right-of-way, as is, legally appropriate, tomorrow, literally. So thank you for, I appreciate council raising that issue again, and I do appreciate the applicant promptly agreeing to take the appropriate action.
Yes, and thank you. So essentially, that's the summary of the trail improvements. We went from a half a mile to a full 2 miles ADA accessible trail. One of the nice things is the trail exists. The property is owned all by RG&E, so it makes obtaining the easement fairly simple. And also, there's not a lot of required disturbance to the ground other than just where the trail itself is going. There's not any kind of substantial clearing or anything like that. We're simply formalizing something that is used today, which will allow residents to use it more and more safely in the future. The second expansion of amenities or improvement to amenities has to do with the access management plan. Those of you familiar with the project and the project documents may recall that the access management plan was always part of the project proposal. However, as presented in the DEIS and then the SDEIS, only included 5 properties from what is now the City Mattress, the former Friendly site, over to the Dunkin' Donuts. And the significance of the AMP is it provides a backage road that allows all of these properties access to this proposed signal light. The reason why that's important is right now we have a lot of curb cuts out there with people, any of the properties that would like to exit have to make a left-hand turn if they're traveling westbound, crossing several lanes of relatively difficult traffic without any kind of signalization or traffic improvement. The left-hand turn lane allows those people to filter out, get a green light, and then safely cross and continue westbound. As part of the FEIS and what the applicant has agreed to do to improve the scope or expand the scope is include, first of all properties on the south side of Monroe Avenue from 590 to Clover Street, with 8 of those properties total, or 3 additional, now having access to the proposed signal light. And that expands, that's shown here in the darker gray, all the way to Nail Spot, Maximum Tan, California Closets, and then the Country Inn and Suites. The road does have to end here just because there's a current existing building there, but there is access and agreements through all of those parking areas. So now everybody in those parcels now can access this light and safely exit. So that increased the scope and increased the cost. Most notably though, and something I did want to talk about, and I'll talk about the traffic in a little bit, is the FEIS and updated traffic study now includes a westbound, so traveling westbound, left turn arrow. So the original documents did not contemplate that left turn arrow due to some input from the New York State DOT, but now with that left arrow, which is called a protected left, residents or any patrons of these facilities will now be able to safely take a left-hand turn with a protected arrow without having to try to find gaps in the oncoming traffic, which certainly is a significant improvement. It reduces the queue lengths that would possibly occur on Monroe Avenue and provides for safe access into the AMP. We refer to it as the snappy left. It's relatively short. We don't want to take too much green time away from Monroe Avenue, but it's certainly enough to allow everybody who wants to access the south side of Monroe Avenue the opportunity to do that. There was also no longer any phasing. Originally it was, well, we're going to do phase 1, and then at some point in the future, phase 2 may be executed. The entire improvement is now proposed as part of the overall project. And that improvement cost is now approximately $868,000. Just quickly, I want to speak to what that means for some of these access points. The anticipation is that over the course of time, with having access to the light and the associated easement agreements, these curb cuts can now be regulated. Some may be changed from full access to a right-in, right-out, some potentially closed to just create a safer access management plan across the board. One example of that is the City Mattress site, whose site plan approval had a condition that at such time an AMP is implemented, they would then modify and have to modify their curb cut from full access to right-in, right-out, so we don't have any of those dangerous, unprotected left turns. So now really all the properties on the left side, or I'm sorry, on the south side of Monroe Avenue have that benefit. These 3 properties over here all the way nearest to Clover Street to the east, which is the existing Plaza, Royal Car Wash, and the office building, they are part of the AMP, but they don't actually connect to the backage road. They have independent access to Clover and Monroe Avenue, but they were included as part of the analysis. Before I get to the site plan, some things I want to talk about, the site plan and traffic, I just want to provide a brief summary of the amenities. First, one thing I do want to say, because there was a lot of public comment about it, is that the FEIS does not consider the signal light or anything associated with the signal light an amenity. It's recognized that that signal light would be required for almost any reasonable development to occur on this parcel, so it is considered mitigation for the project. So we're not counting the value of that signal light as an amenity. The amenities are the trail and its expanded scope, the implementation of the AMP, and then the preservation of this open space here on Clover Street. Outside of the incentive zoning application, this residentially zoned land could be developed into several single homes. As part of the project, the applicant, again, is proposing to leave that forever wild and put it under some kind of agreement so that it will never be touched or disturbed. So those are really the three amenities. There's nothing further than that. So I just wanted to clarify that because there was some confusion and a lot of comments about that in the various public comment associated with both the DEIS and the SDEIS.
Not so much confusion. They were, certain of those items were claimed as amenities. And
Right.
Based on comments from this board and
Perhaps
from
our,
others.
perhaps our confusion, but nevertheless, they're no longer being considered an amenity. And then, so just in summary, between those three, the total value is approximately $1.7 million of amenities that wouldn't otherwise be part of a typical application process. Now, with respect to traffic, traffic has obviously been kind of the most scrutinized and for good reason topics associated with this entire project. There have been some significant traffic improvements made as part of the project proposal. And this really goes back to a conversation that was had with the state DOT, at the advice and counsel of the town, who were saying, we feel that, and I don't want to speak for the town, so please forgive me. But anyway, the general consensus was that this plaza and the area would function better if there was this protected left turn signal that would allow people to enter into the plaza without having to find those gaps through people that are traveling westbound. The DOT was very reluctant to do that because the DOT is concerned about their road, quite frankly, and that's Monroe Avenue. And they don't want to steal any green time from Monroe Avenue by introducing this left turn movement. In order to give that protected left, you have to stop all the traffic on Monroe Avenue traveling westbound, and they're concerned about that. Well, the applicant had a meeting with the state DOT, and the DOT, at the DOT suggestion, we came up with a solution that really provides those protected lefts but doesn't steal time away from the westbound traffic. And the way that happens is with the introduction of a left turn arrow here at the western project entrance. So that the way that this would function is as patrons are leaving or exiting the plaza, this light turns green to allow everybody to leave, and then westbound traffic is obviously stopped to let those people out. Well, at the exact same time, because this signal will operate under the same controller, this left turn arrow turns green to then let people filter into the plaza without stealing any time from Monroe Avenue. So we really have several benefits. We're not impacting the traffic on Monroe Avenue any further, and we're giving people traveling eastbound entering the plaza that opportunity for a safe and protected left-hand turn into the project. So the project traffic impact study was revised based on that condition and at the advice of the New York State DOT. And sure enough, the result was that the queue lengths or the people waiting to turn were greatly reduced with the introduction of that arrow. So the state DOT has reviewed the revised traffic study based on that revision and issued a new letter based on those changes, which is now part of the FEIS. So that's a pretty significant and creative way, I believe, to solve one of the traffic movement struggles that we might have had early on. So you'll see all of that documentation in the FEIS, which has been provided. One other thing I do want to mention with respect to traffic, something that has happened since the SDEIS was accepted is that the Whole Foods right outside of Buffalo in the town of Amherst, which is the exact same size, had their opening in September. Now, through the whole process, there was a lot of discussion on trip generations. And how can you accurately predict the amount of traffic that's entering and leaving this Whole Foods without having something that's very comparable? You may recall that we presented to this board what seems like a long time ago now, our best comparison, which was in Darien, Connecticut, which has a similar demographic. Well, now we have the opportunity and have had the opportunity to take a look at that new Buffalo store, found that during the first week that they were open, yes, there's more trips than what would initially be projected as part of the traffic study. That's common for any new grand opening. But what we found by counting week after week, that was within 1 week, there was a 40% reduction in that spike of traffic associated with the open. And the actual stabilized values of that store with a similar demographic, exact same size, actually has 80 trips less during the peak hour than the numbers that we're using. That doesn't mean we adjusted our numbers, we didn't lower our numbers, but we just verified that we were being conservative. And I think it's important to mention that because that was a difference and that information was added to the FEIS. Lastly, I do want to just summarize the traffic by saying, well, what does all this mean? The introduction of the light, this advanced left turn lane. As a driver who may travel this corridor every day, how is that going to impact you? How would that impact me? And during the PM peak hour, which is when this corridor experiences the most traffic, the difference from what you might experience today under existing conditions compared to what you would experience once the plaza was fully developed, using all the conservative numbers we've used, is it would be a total of a 22-second delay traveling from Westfall all to Clover Street during the peak hour, really the worst driving conditions. So that's really the traffic impact, is that additional 22 seconds when measured during the PM peak hour. So that's the extent of the traffic improvement. I'd be happy to expand on that if needed. Lastly, I want to say one thing that is offered in the FEIS is the idea of phasing the occupancy of the project, so the whole project doesn't open at the same time. So you wouldn't have, under this scenario, 90,000 square feet open on day one, where all those spikes might align to create a more congested situation. It is a proposed phased occupancy where the Whole Foods would open and nothing else would open at that time. And then there's designated time frames that the other retail spaces could open to try to smooth that peak out. So in summary, those are the changes. It's really the trail improvement becoming over 4 times longer than it was originally proposed, the expansion of the scope of the AMP, those 2 amenities, and then the traffic improvement, which really boils down to this left turn light, which now allows people to get into the plaza much easier and significantly reduces the impact and the queue on Monroe Avenue. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions or expand on anything else that may be contained in the document.
Thank you, Jess. I think what I'm going to do is ask if there are any people, and again, this is not a public hearing. This is not material that will be formally entered into the public record. There will be a public hearing which will be on the record at the February 28th meeting if the town board takes action on the matter that's before them. But just for the sake of sort of trying to consolidate, if there are people here, I'm going to ask if there are members of the public. There was one hand raised who would like to address this matter during the open forum. I think we'll do it now. And so, yes, in the back there. Come on. Please come up to the microphone. And if you would, please, again, state your name and address. I'm sorry, would it be easier if we brought the microphone back to you? Okay.
I'm not too fast. But
No problem. And we only ask that because people are at home and they need to have the mic to hear.
my name is Judy Van Houten, and I live at 205 Shoreham Drive. And from where I was sitting, I was not able to see this board or what he was pointing at.
Understand.
So for me to comprehend what the changes are and how they're going to affect me, I couldn't tell if he was talking about anything that wasn't on Monroe Avenue or not.
There are no ingress or egress points to this project anywhere other than on Monroe Avenue, specifically, and concern that has been raised by a number of people, and there are a number, just to digress for a moment, one of the other things that is a part of this final environmental impact statement that the board will later consider are responses to every substantive environmental comment raised either at any one of those public hearings or by written comment before, and a number of those comments related to whether there were access points on either Clover Street or on Allen's Creek. That has not changed. There are no access points being proposed on either street.
From what I recall, and it could be incorrect, but a long time ago, I was under the impression, like if this is, say it's approved and it's not working out, and the state comes in to fix it, could a fix from the state affect exits onto any place other than Monroe Avenue?
The only state highway is Monroe Avenue. So that's the only street that the state has jurisdiction over.
Okay. So any other question I had regarding the traffic is I put in the letter today, as I had been curious as to whether if there had been traffic studies done regarding the ultimate activity around the new Y, which is supposedly the largest one in the area that's going to feed in and off of Clover Street, which is 2 lanes. And also, I am under the understanding that it's not a rumor, but they are going to take lanes out of East Avenue.
Yeah, let me, because those are two very separate, I'm going to let Jess address your question relating to Clover Street. But with respect to East Avenue, and it is something that has been the subject of public meetings, the state, as part of a resurfacing project on East Avenue, is proposing to go from 4 lanes, each of which are 10 feet wide, to a one travel lane in each direction with a center turn lane. That would also leave space on either side of the automobile traffic lanes for cyclists, although there is discussion right now as to how wide that area will be, exactly how wide those lanes are, and how they will be marked. But it is their plan next year to make those changes. So that is real.
So you can see my concern would be if the traffic now is used to clear 2 lanes in each direction, and they take a lane out except for the one in the middle, then what are they, has there been a study that would show how it would affect Allen's Creek and everything else, where those cars would necessarily need to go?
Yeah, actually back in 2013, the town did our bicycle pedestrian master plan. And as part of that plan, is we look to implement the concept of complete streets, which is a concept that is intended to make more and more streets and highways safely accessible, not only by cars, but also by pedestrians and cyclists. So as part of our bicycle pedestrian master plan, we looked at traffic counts on a number of streets. And the traffic counts on East Avenue were such that our consultant and the master plan itself did recommend this kind of change in configuration. As a good example of something similar,
I'm sorry, did you say 2013?
that was 2013, that's correct. There is a similar situation in the town of Brighton, South Clinton Avenue, between Westfall going south to Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road. That stretch of road also used to have 4 lanes and traffic counts that are actually higher than on East Avenue, but low enough that a recommendation was made when that was resurfaced to go to a similar kind of configuration. If you travel that street now, there's a north-south, 1 lane in each direction with a center left turn lane and a very wide shoulder that, although that's a county road, and the county would not at the time mark it as a bicycle lane with the traditional sharrows and everything else, and not for want of trying on our part. But that reconfiguration has actually worked very well. One of the things it does is reduce speeds, which was an important concern on South Clinton and is an important concern on East Avenue. There is a pretty high level of speeding because it feels like a very wide road with not a lot of traffic on it. By bringing it down and by marking so that bicyclists know that that's an opportunity, data suggests, and I think the experience on Clinton has been such, speeds are reduced. There has not been any increase in accidents in the Clinton area as well. So, but that is, I I want to let Jess, if you want to address the
Because
other question.
it occurred to me that if there was a current study that they took at the Y, and a current study that maybe they've done on East Avenue, because right now, when you go out Shoreham and turn right, there's a left-hand lane, but if you don't get through it on a light after 3 o'clock, you rush through it after it's red, one car at a time, more than likely. So, like if
I'm sorry, Shoreham doesn't have a traffic signal.
On Clover, we exit Shoreham to Clover on Westfall, and then there's another issue with if the first car on Allen's Creek wants to turn left on Monroe, there's another issue with all that traffic. So what I was wondering is if they're adding the biggest Y in the area over here on 2 lanes, and then they're going to take a couple lanes out of East Avenue, which slows everybody down, and everybody is going to be trying to find probably a different way home, like in Pittsford. Is there a way to coordinate the studies, or at least get some kind of a concept of where they think all these additional people are going to go when this happens?
There has been a recent, a study in connection with the East Avenue project that they are quite some distance apart. But I am going to ask Mr. Sudol to come up and address Clover Street and traffic changes in condition over time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, when we do our traffic impact studies, we don't look at existing conditions as they are today and then just simply add our traffic onto that. What we do is we look into the future in terms of what the traffic conditions would be at the time that our project is completed. So really, we're not analyzing traffic in 2016, 2017, 2018. We're really looking out further. And as part of that process, we use what's called a growth rate factor to establish potential background conditions. And even though the Monroe County DOT has published studies that show that in general the traffic in Monroe County has been decreasing over the course of time, we take all the traffic in our study, that includes all the traffic on Monroe Avenue, all the traffic on Allens Creek Road, and then all the traffic on Clover Street, and then we multiply it by this growth rate factor to, I don't know if artificially inflate is the best word, but to inflate and account for additional development in the area and outside the area. And that growth rate factor results in a significant amount of traffic being added into our model to account for potential future development conditions. So to answer the question, the numbers that we use, in our analysis for what the traffic would look like when the project is complete includes a significant amount of added traffic, far more than what would be generated by the Y that's down Clover Street into the entire model, so that we're really being as conservative as possible. Does that answer it? Or?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Please.
Thank you, and good evening to members of the board and other town officials. My name is Aaron Sakin. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Hodgson Russ, and we represent the individuals who comprise Save Monroe Avenue. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity.
I've heard different descriptions of Save Monroe Avenue. You've described it now as individuals.
Individuals and businesses. What I would like to do, with all due respect, is to address what I think is an important issue. And I do appreciate the opportunity to do so from the members of the board. Tonight, this board is going to take an important and significant vote on the Whole Foods project for the final environmental impact statement. Unfortunately, the vast majority of the people in this community who are interested in this project, who care about what happens going forward, have absolutely no idea that this vote is about to take place. And the reason why they have absolutely no idea is the agenda for tonight's meeting, including the item to be voted on tonight, was posted today, hours ago. So members of the community have had virtually no opportunity to meaningfully review what this board is going to vote on today and to offer feedback to the board. And for the folks at home and everywhere else who don't have an idea of what exactly is being voted on, please let me show you. This is a 511-page statement, final environmental impact statement that's being voted on today. How in the world can members of the community meaningfully review this with a few hours' notice and offer proper feedback to the board? I submit that there should be no vote tonight on this issue until the public has had an opportunity to do this. Now, this board has pledged, and other civic leaders, including members of the state legislature, have insisted that the board listen to and involve the public during every step of the process. Tonight should not be an exception. The public should have an opportunity to weigh in, and I'm struck by some of the changes that have been explained in detail by the engineer for the applicants. These changes require public review and input, and they've been deprived of that today in what I assume is an apparent effort to try to push through this project quick, or at least this portion of the project, quickly and quietly. Without meaningful public review and feedback, this board should not be moving forward on such a significant step. Thank you.
Thank you. I would, again, just note a couple of things. First, under seeker and the seeker regulations, a public hearing is not permitted for a final environmental impact statement. However, a final environmental impact statement is the culmination, in this case, of a process that started with scoping, continued to a draft environmental impact statement, and then a supplemental draft environmental impact statement, which frankly was exactly what both Save Monroe Avenue and the Neighborhood Association asked the board to do. Each one of those steps, although not necessarily required, a public hearing was held. Now, if we will be, again, the proposed action tonight will be setting another public hearing on February 28th, at which time we understand every step of the process. We have not tried to shut people down and say, you're not talking about the right topic. We welcome the input from the public about the amenities, the incentives, the environmental impact, these changes, and other salient topics related to the project. Those are all welcomed, as we have welcomed them at every step of the process, and we will take those into account. And much of, I think it is important to note that much of what you held up there, which is a weighty document, that is frankly why it has taken some time, as you know. Under seeker, seeker directs a 45-day time period after a draft environmental impact statement or a supplemental draft environmental impact statement has been completed. Seeker directs a 45-day period to prepare a final environmental impact statement. We have extended that a couple of times to the current deadline of January 31st. So we will take people's comments relating to this project on the 28th. No decisions have been made. No decisions will be made until all of that ensues. But thank you for your comments.
Supervisor, I was going to save some comments for later when we reach this matter on the agenda, but maybe it would be helpful.
Yeah, I don't want to put Robin in a.
No, I just want to, again, it's on the subject that we've been talking about. What is this FEIS and how does it work in context with the process that the town has been going through? And I'm hoping that this will put not just the board but the public at ease. What you are looking at, this 500 and some odd page document, is town staff's best effort to bring together all of the input that has been provided by the project sponsor and all of the input that's been provided by the public through the public hearings, and fully analyze all of the significant environmental issues and provide responses to the comments made by the public. So this is the town's document, and my recommendation, along with Commissioner Keefe's recommendation to the board, is that you accept and file this product, which has been many hours, many weeks, many months actually in the making, and take it, read it. We invite the public to read it. We're not looking for the public to give us feedback tonight. That would be absurd. I agree. It's a big document, which is why our recommendation is to the board, set a public hearing for a month. Actually, it's a little over a month from now, February 28th. Listen to the public, read the document yourself before you make any decisions. And we will, and I've shared this with the supervisor, I'll share it with the public, the board, and the sponsor. We will be asking the sponsor for some additional time to make findings. Seeker would normally say that we have 30 days from today to make those findings. It is not our recommendation that this board make any findings on this project until after that public hearing, and not on the night of the public hearing either. And so we're going to be talking to the project sponsor about their willingness to extend that time. We expect that that will be acceptable. And so we do want public input. We do think that the town board's role in inviting that public input has been critical and will continue to be critical, and we want to make sure that there are opportunities for that to occur.
And the one other thing I note, there's been a lot of discussion about incentive zoning versus traditional zoning. I do think it's important to note that incentive zoning under the town code requires a higher level of public input at the town board. There would not be another public hearing before the town board. There would not be another public hearing, on television, streaming live, but for the fact that this is a project that's being considered under incentive zoning. So, but I hear what you're saying. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Supervisor Maley, members of the town board. Rob Brenner from the law firm Nixon Peabody here on behalf of Clover Allens Creek Neighborhood Association. You all have heard from me before. I'm going to state things a little bit differently than the Save Monroe Ave representatives stated them. We're just asking one thing tonight. We had reached out to the town multiple times.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. We had reached out to the town multiple times asking for a status update on the project and where things stood. Those emails weren't responded to. There's no obligation of the town to respond to them. However, our issue that we have is that there are folks, hundreds of them in our organization, that are concerned about the environmental impacts of the project. We've sat idle while the developer and the town have worked on the FEIS, understanding that that's what SEQR requires. However, you have a document in front of you tonight that you're going to be voting on, and you have open forum, privilege of the floor at every meeting. Folks should have an opportunity to intelligently review the documents that are on the website. I understand that SEQR doesn't require a formal public hearing.
It doesn't permit a formal public hearing.
It doesn't require one. It could be discretionarily granted. However, the one thing that I want to raise is that folks should be able to come to their representatives and speak about concerns they have about a project during privilege of the floor, and that could influence your vote one way or the other. You could say, yes, this FEIS should be accepted, or you could say, no, it should not be accepted on the basis of 30 people's comments. So all we're simply asking for is that you defer action on this evening, allow folks a month to look at the documents that have gone up on the website. There's an updated traffic report I saw today that was dated January 19. People should have an opportunity to look at that, come and speak with you all during privilege of the floor, and say, here's our concern, something for you to consider as you're voting on the document. That's our position, and that's all we're saying. And we're just asking you to defer the vote, understanding the town's interpretation of the process, but just asking you to allow folks to avail themselves of your privilege of the floor and open forum portion of your meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. And what again, we're really not that far apart. We, of course, welcome, as we have throughout the process, people who have come in and spoken during the open forum period. We will welcome that at our next meeting, and we will have a public hearing on February 28th, at which time we certainly welcome input from the public about any matters relating to the proposal, including the final environmental impact statement. I, again, would note that seeker one deviates from seeker requirements at great peril. Seeker and the regulations do not provide for a public hearing on a final environmental impact statement. If we were to choose to hold one, we could certainly be accused of not following seeker. But I think because this is being done through the incentive zoning process, we are doing more than what seeker would permit us to do, and we look forward to those comments. But thank you, Mr. President.
The only thing I want to add, and I know you said it, I just want to emphasize it, I just want to really, because it's really important, is if the public wants their comments to be part of the official record on what the board decides, those comments should be made at the February 28th public hearing, coming to our next town board meeting on the 14th of February. Coming here to celebrate Valentine's Day with us would be lovely, but coming that night to make comments on the project would not be part of the official public record. I just want folks to know that.
Ken, is there any provision for indicating to the public that they can correspond with us, ask that their comments be included as part of the public hearing on the incentive zoning matter, and then have those included as part of the record of the public hearing on the 28th? Because I do want to make it possible for as many people as possible to have their comments included in that public record.
Yeah, typically speaking, Supervisor, any written comments that are received are made part of the public record. So yes, absolutely.
Right.
If you cannot, for some reason, come on the night of the 28th of February, certainly written comments could be submitted and made part of the public record. Absolutely.
Just make clear that that's the request, that that you want them to be included in the public record of that public hearing. Is there anyone else that would like to address during open forum this Whole Foods proposal? Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address any other matter during the open forum? Judy.
I'll do Jim's first. Just another reminder that Brighton Neighbors United Supper is March 4th at Buckland. It's at 6 o'clock, dish to pass. And if anyone did not get a reservation form, either through their neighborhood association or whatever, give me a call, 442-5111, and I'd be happy to email one to you. Okay, now for my point tonight. As you know, I was thrilled to see the streetscape along Monroe Avenue associated with the GIGP project. Brighton Neighbors United even presented Mike Guyan with its annual beautification award a year ago, June.
Thank you for that. That was
You're welcome.
wonderful.
He was so deserving, and it was a pleasure.
He was.
It was a pleasure, and he was so.
Caught him off guard, too.
Right, I loved it. My concern, though, in questions about the bid proposal to provide annual maintenance services relating to the streetscaping associated with the Monroe Avenue GIGP project are: 1, what will be done during this annual maintenance? 2, will there be weekly or biweekly maintenance as well to keep this wonderful asset alive and looking attractive from early spring to late fall? 3, will the highway department be able to do the, quote, day-to-day upkeep, so to speak, and still be able to carry out their usual seasonal tasks? If that's not possible, I offer up a suggestion if it becomes an issue. Dee Burdette from my neighborhood began beautifying the gardens around Town Hall last summer, and perhaps at 12 Corners, but I'm not quite sure if she did that area. I'm sure that she would be more than happy to continue aiding in this way, which ties in perfectly with Robin's idea of a beautification committee as part of community services. There should be no problem, I don't think, with liability, as hundreds of the community participate in Clean Sweep and have been doing so for years to work around the grounds here at Town Hall, parks, etc. In closing, I am a firm believer that if there is a will, there is a way. To me, there is a great will to keep Monroe Avenue and the gardens around Town Hall, the 12 Corners, and perhaps other areas looking beautiful all season long and giving us pride in the appearance of our town as people drive through or even stop to shop. Lovely gardens go a long way to make an area look beautiful and wonderful. Please enter this into the record.
Thank you, Judy. As you know, as you referenced, we are taking action tonight to authorize soliciting proposals. That's not something that we're required to do, but it is something we do partly just to let the community know we're doing it, and partly so we're all committed to the very effort that you're talking about. Assuming that we approve that tonight, it will be up to Mike Guyon and whatever other staff assist him in preparing specifications so that we clarify what exactly is being done. But it is, my expectation, obviously the GIG project is a long project running from the 12 Corners out to basically to Westfall. It's certainly more than it would ever be reasonable to expect volunteers, and Dee has been wonderful in terms of her work, and we appreciate that. So I would anticipate that all of the work contemplated for the GIGP will be covered by this contract. In terms of other work around, we also take great pride in the appearance of the town. Our highway staff and our park staff, depending on the area, does maintenance work. This was a tough summer for a number of reasons, as you're aware, and certainly as Robin is aware. And we're going to make sure that we continue to maintain an attractive area. I'm looking forward to working with the Roselawn Neighborhood Association to reinvigorate the garden here on the Town Hall campus that was started as a joint project with them. And so the answer really is yes, that is all very, very important. But the focus where you started, the GIGP, that will be done through this bid. Right. But thanks. Right, that I realized. I didn't mean for... No, Judy, if you want, but again, I just want to say beautification of town property is something that we will continue.
Sure, and I did not mean for Dee to do Monroe Ave. That was not my thing. No. Oh, no. No, I said specifically the gardens that she's worked on and perhaps 12 Corners. No way would you do that. But my concern is you're saying yearly maintenance, but will there be something in between?
I don't mean that we're just going to go out there once a year.
Okay, but you don't know how often yet, until Mike does some.
We will. Are you talking about the GIGP?
No, I'm sure that Mike would probably plan something in between the year to year, right?
Well, Mike is primarily responsible for the GIGP maintenance. Other staff take responsibility for example, the park in the 12 Corners with the pergola on it.
Okay.
The plantings here on the Town Hall campus. And no, that is not a once a year.
Okay.
That's an ongoing effort. And again, last year was a tough year at a lot of levels, partly because we did have some personnel changes, partly because one of the people who would largely be responsible for that was committed to a major town campus HVAC project that was.
I realize, and everybody does realize that it was an unusual time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yes.
you, Supervisor O'Malley.
Welcome.
My name is Heather O'Donnell. I'm with the Rochester People's Climate Coalition, and I serve on the leadership team for transportation. You gave a little background on the Route 96 project, so I won't repeat that right now. I just want to address some of the updates. An impressive array of organizations and individuals have been joining forces in the past 2 months and working very hard, putting an enormous amount of time and effort into advocating for bike lanes on this stretch of road. The bike lanes would provide for a safer and more reliable infrastructure for cyclists. The New York State Department of Transportation has been unwilling to meet the conditions necessary for fully designated bike lanes, clearly favoring auto interests over alternative means of transportation. It is in our community's interest to push hard for any policy that serves to protect our environment and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Brighton has drawn a clear line in the sand on other environmental issues, most recently by successfully intervening on the issue of tree clearance on the Erie Canal. We at the RPCC urge Brighton to continue to take a strong stand on the Route 96 maintenance project and insist on the necessity of providing clear, safe, and designated bike lanes. There is no reason to further compromise on this issue, and applying pressure, perhaps legal pressure, on the New York State Department of Transportation will provide a precedent for future bike lane infrastructure. We can safeguard our community from climate change by ensuring that every single person who chooses alternative transportation over car use is fundamentally supported, protected, and encouraged. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. You're right. This town board has made its position clear, and I think both myself and Robin, in direct communication to the regional director, that we are looking for a bike lane, not a bike lane light, and that even if the state believes that the configuration that would leave a 5-foot bike lane is not possible, and I don't agree with that, by the way, I think it is possible, that a few inches less will still be much safer if it is properly marked for bicycle travel. That does not just mean little signs by the side of the road. It means pavement markings, color, however it's chosen to be done, that not only sends a message to the cyclists, but sends a message to drivers that this is the bicyclists' area. I do believe, and our consultants believe, that traffic volumes in that area warrant this kind of so-called pavement diet, and that makes it a great opportunity to make East Avenue a more bicycle-friendly. You know, we've talked about, in another part of town, a multiversity trail, the concept of using trails to connect the U of R, RIT, and MCC. And the great thing about that opportunity is most of the infrastructure is in place. You have the Lehigh Valley Trail that basically runs more or less from the University of Rochester to RIT and well beyond. You have the Canal Trail that, again, intersects with the Lehigh Valley Trail and runs very, very close to MCC. The challenge are those little connections. Well, here, again, most of the infrastructure, the pavement of the road, is in place. The opportunity is there to use it as effectively as we can to connect through Brighton, the two schools, St. John Fisher and Nazareth, through a thoroughfare that does have, you know, more pavement than traffic consultants say is necessary. The DOT agrees with that. Everybody agrees with that. And I'm still hopeful that the impasse can be broken, and that if there, you know, I like compromise. Compromise is sometimes the only way you can get, you know, at least most of what you need. But I think if that's ultimately where it winds up, it should be a compromise that does give cyclists as well as motorists a safe place to operate. So thank you for holding everybody's feet to the fire on that one.
Thank you, Heather.
Anyone else like to address the board during the open forum? Hearing none, we will move on with the business portion of our meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? I believe, Dave, you've received one item of communication from Ms. Van Houten.
So I've got two. I've got,
Okay.
in addition to the two.
Ah,
from the
yes,
open
yes, yes,
forum,
yes, from
and
council.
I've got the one that was already listed over here, so
So if I could
I'll add
have,
those, of course.
if I could have a motion to approve the agenda with those two items of
So moved.
communication added. Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner. Aye. Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve and file town board meeting minutes for December 13th and December 27th, 2017 board meetings, the town board's organizational meeting on January 2nd, and the town board meeting on January 10th, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I know a couple of us made some comments and revisions on those as we got through the process. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner. Aye. Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Bids. Chris?
First item is for authorization to solicit for proposals as necessary for 2018 to provide various materials, equipment, and services to the town facilities, parks, and public works departments, which have been accounted for in the 2018 adopted budget. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Any discussion? This is this and the next matter, which is a companion relating to other departments, highway, sewer, and public works related. This is something we do annually to facilitate routine purchases of various types of materials. We have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye, and Chris, I'll let you do the next one as well.
Thank you. Authorization here is to solicit for proposals as necessary for 2018 to provide various materials, equipment, and services to the highway, sewer, and public works departments, which have been accounted for in the 2018 adopted budget. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Robin, if you do the next one, please.
On the matter regarding authorization to solicit for proposals to provide annual maintenance services relating to streetscaping associated with the Monroe Avenue GIGP project, I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
We may have had the discussion already on this one. Thank you, Judy. But again, this will authorize Mike to put together proposals. I anticipate will come back to the board to, once he has final specs ready and can go out for the bid. We are 1 year away from being complete with that project. We made a lot of great progress last year, but it's important to make sure we maintain it. So we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, anybody? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Communications, can I have a motion to receive and file communications, including the items that we, two additional items that we received during the open forum?
So moved.
Seconding.
We've discussed, or the writers discussed the material they submitted before, and someone alluded to the canal cutting, but this additional letter that's in here does thank me for getting involved in the canal cutting, so this is probably a good opportunity to discuss that a little bit further and where we're at. Last fall, the state proposed, sort of out of left field, clear cutting trees, 155 acres of trees in Orleans and Monroe County. Frankly, before there was much opportunity for anybody to know which end was up. They had started in Orleans County and cut a significant swath of embankment, starting in Medina, and they got as far as partly into Spencerport, Ogden. We heard from people, Pittsford, Perrington, and Brighton, and particularly following the meeting that was held at the Reserve here in Brighton, I believe in November, maybe early December. But Supervisor Barker from Perrington, Supervisor Smith from Pittsford, and I, engaged with this project. We were very concerned. We did not see any environmental review. This project was declared what is called a Type 2 action under seeker. I think that is clearly an incorrect designation, and as you recall at the last meeting, this board authorized litigation if necessary. So did the town boards in Pittsford and Perrington. There was a meeting last Wednesday night in Perrington. It was grim. That's the only word I can use. Ashley, who's out in the audience, asked me from Channel 8 what I thought, and I told her I was disappointed. And I was. I was more than disappointed. However, I think the state, at all sorts of levels, heard all sorts of voices. They heard voices from residents of our three communities and beyond that said, wait a second, we value the canal, we understand safety, and let me make it very clear, safety is very, very important. But we've been proffered no evidence that there's an emergency. In fact, what we know is that in 105 years, there have only been 3 embankment breaches along the canal. None of them have been due to trees or tree roots or other vegetation. Every one of them was actually caused by human activity, digging around culverts, most recently the last one in 1974. So frankly, one of the concerns some of our folks raised was, is this human activity itself going to pose a risk to the embankment? And without any serious consideration of alternatives, without any serious consideration of how to balance the environmental benefits of having those trees for habitat, for the vista, tourism, versus making sure we were providing safety, everybody was sort of talking past each other. So at a second meeting, Thursday night, the Canal Corporation had reached out to the 3 of us supervisors, indicated their desire to present a revised proposal, and they did that. Since that time, we have engaged in some discussion, not only with the Canal Corp, but also, and most importantly, with the leaders of the resident group that sent this message so loud and clear. We want to hear from them. We want to make sure that whatever work is done along the canal is done in a way that, yes, if safety work is necessary, that it be done, but that it only be done with the minimum amount of environmental impact. That's going to be an ongoing process. I'm hopeful that we're able to continue those discussions, reach an understanding with the state so that both objectives, safety and environmental welfare, are maintained. So that's a long way of talking about this letter and thanking Beth and the many others that have reached out to me and to the others, the state legislators who represent our 3 towns. Thank you, everybody. So we have a motion and a second on this item of communication. Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel,
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Warner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer.
Aye. Next is committee reports. Community Services, Robin.
Thank you, Supervisor. The Community Services Committee met on January 16th, Tuesday, at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Department Arts and Crafts Room. It was quite well attended. We had quite a number of residents to show out, for which I'm very thankful. On items of continuing business, Matt Beeman addressed the committee regarding park issues, in particular Carmen Clark Lodge and upcoming projects there. As you recall, we have a community development block grant in the amount of $33,000 to help offset the cost of renovations at the facility, to include removal and installation of new sidewalks in front of the lodge, and also an ADA accessible doorway, roof and window replacements, and Matt notified us that sidewalk and parking lot work will be done later in the spring or summer, depending on weather and scheduling allowing. In addition to that, Matt updated us on some playground equipment that had fallen into disrepair. We did, in particular, 2 slides that we needed to replace. Those slides have been received at the town. They're being stored for the winter, and the equipment will be replaced as weather allows. An additional item, recreational item, ADA compliant sway fun glider, which we intend to install over at the town hall pool. That has also been received by the town. The equipment is here, it's being stored at the highway department. This particular installation is quite complicated and involved. We need to coordinate between the Department of Public Works, Highway Department, and town engineers in order to make the installation successful. So, but the goal is to have that sway fun glider installed prior to the pool opening this year. In addition to that, the Community Advisory Board for Parks and Recreation has deferred to Matt Beeman's recommendations and review regarding lodge rentals and security deposit policies. Right now, the town currently rents in 2 different timeframes, 2 sequential timeframes, one from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. and the other from 4:30 to 9:45 p.m. Renters historically don't leave on time, unfortunately, and then the subsequent renters will arrive early, and the staff faces some challenges in terms of turning over the facilities in the manner that we would like to turn them over for the dual shifts. So we discussed some of the challenges regarding that, and another issue was security deposits are not taken at our lodges, so there's no recourses in the event that the lodges are not left in satisfactory condition. Matt looked at different facilities rental agreements for neighboring towns, including Pittsford, Parenton, Webster, Victor, and county facilities, and to see how we compare in terms of those other municipalities. And we do tend to be on the lower side. Our current fees are $95 for residents and $120 for non-residents. And so, like I said, Matt will be reviewing those and making recommendations to the committee. In addition, we reviewed some our recreational programming. We've had some ongoing challenges in terms of maintenance at the Brookside facility, which is owned by the Brighton Central Schools District. And so we continue to review those. And on that note, though, I did want to notify people that the winter and spring recreation programs have begun. We're very busy with online registration, and I did want to call attention to one particular item of programming that we will have this upcoming weekend is an annual event. The Cabin Fever event is very popular in the town. That will be on Sunday, January 28th from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center. That's 220 Idlewood Road. The Recreation Department partners with Brighton Farmers Market, Brighton Your Wardrobe, and several direct sale vendors in order to bring us this unique shopping experience. Various vendors will be on hand so you can shop to your heart's content. Brighton Your Wardrobe will be having a sale, and as always, the Brighton Farmers Market will be operational during this event. In addition, the Recreation Department will be open on Sunday, so you can register for your upcoming 2018 winter and spring programs. And I want to remind people that there is no football this Sunday, so we do hope that you'll come out and shop with us, right? As I said, our winter and spring programs are ongoing, and I don't know if people are aware, but you do not have to be a resident of Brighton in order to register for most of our recreational programs. Full program information may be found for our winter and spring program brochures online or at the Brighton Town Hall, Brighton Memorial Library, and the Brighton Central School District buildings. Classes are starting and registration is currently open. Spaces and programs are filled on a first-come, first-served basis, so do register early to ensure your program of choice doesn't get canceled or filled. Sorry, this is taking a long time.
That's all right.
Lastly, it was a long meeting.
Good meeting.
Yes, it was a good meeting. In addition to that, we discussed the winter farm market proposal that we have, the development of the new winter farm market. As people may recall, we had bids come in. The project was put out for bid, the phase one of the project, and the bids came back rather high. So we have renewed the contract with Insight to complete revised bid documents, and those will be going out. And in addition to that, we discussed the Corbett's Glen Advisory Council recommendations. These have also been discussed in the Public Works and Public Safety Committee meetings. The ongoing problem here is that Corbett's Glen is being loved to death. We've had some problems with regard to erosion of the banks and parking issues, and so the committee made some recommendations regarding local law and town policy to try to address some of the concerns that have come up with regard to the park. The recommendations of the committee are being reviewed in the Community Services Committee as well, and we hope to take action prior to the busy season over at Corbett's Glen. As Judy Schwartz mentioned, we also talked about town beautification. Right now, most of town is covered by snow, but it has been an ongoing topic of discussion within the Community Services Committee, and as issues continue to arise, we will address that. One of the potential options is the formation of a beautification committee so that we can target some of the areas and garner resources in terms of volunteers and community for ongoing beautification efforts in the town. And items of new business. This one is near and dear to my heart. We did discuss the formation of an Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee. Stemming from the hate literature and the formation of the CURB group, the Community Undoing Racism in Brighton, we are looking at the formation of an Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee to hopefully address some of to have a community response in reaction to the negative hate speech and hate crimes and discrimination that we've experienced in the town, and also the formation of some best practices and a plan to address some of the issues of inclusion, diversity, and equity that face the town. The town continues to put local law and best practices in place to protect its residents and employees with regard to inclusion, diversity, and equity, and we're hoping that the formation of this committee will help us make progress in those areas. Finally, we discussed community choice aggregation law, which also has been discussed in other committees, in particular the Public Works Committee. As you may recall, the CCA is a way to potentially save money and provide more sustainable sources of energy by pooling our purchasing power as a community. We've held 2 public hearings so far with regard to introduction of a local law for community choice aggregation. In response to that, a revised law has been drafted to address some of the concerns that were raised, and so that was accepted into committee minutes, and we will be looking at that in the future.
The near future, I hope.
Yes, the near future. Finally, we did set some dates, had some save the dates set in terms of the annual clean sweep planning. We're looking at Saturday, May 12th. We're going to run that by the school districts, see if that date is acceptable to them. And I do want to remind people that the pharmaceutical take-back is scheduled for April 28th, and we're looking at May 19th for the shredding and electronics recycling program. Our next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Thursday. Please do note the change in day, February 22nd, 2018 at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside School. As usual, all members of the public are encouraged and welcome.
Thank you. It was a long report, but it really was a long meeting, a good meeting, and we covered a lot of territory. Thank you. Jason, Finance.
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Tuesday, January 16th. Each of the items that were discussed at our meeting appear on tonight's agenda, including the bids that we voted on previously. The date and time of our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 6th. We meet at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Stage Conference Room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Jason. Jim, Public Safety.
Yes, Public Safety Committee meeting will be scheduled for Tuesday, February 13th at 8:30 in the morning. And that will be, again, like Jason and Robin have said, these are all open meetings to the public, and the public is certainly invited. That's it.
Thank you. Chris, Public Works.
Public Works, we reported on the January 2nd monthly meeting at our last town board meeting on the 10th. Our next monthly meeting is February the 6th, the first Tuesday of the month, as usual, at 9 o'clock. And our location will be downstairs, or will they still be doing assessments down there?
9 o'clock?
For Public Works?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, 9 o'clock.
I'm still thinking about Jim's Public Safety. 9 o'clock, yes?
And I don't know if we'll be downstairs or we'll be in the Stage Conference Room.
I think in the auditorium.
In the auditorium here?
Okay.
Very good. And please, public, come and speak with us.
Great. Thank you. New business, reading and approval of claims. Jason.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $1,591,549.44. Notable claims include to the Brighton Fire District for the first installment of the 2018 tax payment in the amount of $800,000. The remainder of their levy, we collect their taxes for them. The remainder of their levy will be paid next month. Also to Van Bortle Ford for 2017 dump truck F550, which was listed as a small dump truck in our CIP and in our budget, in the amount of $45,539.75. And also along the lines of equipment purchases, next notable claim was to Kubota Tractor for a tractor with attachments pertaining to snow removal in the amount of $42,521.57. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion on those? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Warner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer.
Aye. Chris, the next matter, please.
Next matter is to authorize acceptance and filing of the final environmental impact statement for the proposed Whole Foods Plaza under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or SEQR, and set February 28, 2018 as the date for continuation of the public hearing on the incentive zoning application for the same. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
We had a lot of discussion. It was good discussion.
Excuse me, Supervisor.
Oh, please, yes. Sorry, Robin.
That's all right. I will be recusing myself on this matter because of a past and future beneficial relationship that my spouse had with one of the potential tenants for the project. So I will follow up my recusal with a letter to the supervisor.
Great.
Excuse me.
And we'll have someone get you.
I'll come
when
get you when we're done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, we had a good discussion about this matter. I do believe we take public input very seriously. We do listen, and there are hundreds of pages. It is a long document, but as I mentioned, most of it is devoted to responses to an awful lot of very good questions, comments about this project. This is an action that is a ministerial action as part of the environmental review process, and I am certainly committed, as I said before. We will engage in a public hearing to hear all concerns on all matters. I do want to encourage our residents to understand their comments are listened to, and we will stay as long as we have to. You know, that's what's important. So, but I do, as our town planner has recommended and our consultant Stan Tech has recommended, that this is the appropriate step. It is not something that can be done with a public hearing, but because we will have the ongoing public hearing through incentive zoning, we will get the public input. Any other?
Bill, you know, I've spent considerable time reading all 511 pages of the document, but this is not the first time I've gone through this information. We've been doing this since February 2016 when we first considered the environmental impact statement.
Actually, February 2015, the application was filed.
Well, that's when the application, but we've been looking at environmental impact statements for some 23 months, and I've read every one of them, and they're quite burdensome. Now, they're quite repetitious as well, however, because they carry over one to the other. And the largest portion of these, some 500 pages, is responding to the public comments and in detail. And the issue is this sufficiently complete that we should move on to the next step of public hearings? And I believe it is.
Thank you.
And just a question. It seems like whenever we make documents available to the public, that we take the ministerial act of filing them. That way, once we take the formal action, we file them.
And that is the term of art under SEQR.
They go up on the website, they become available, then the public can then review, consume, and comment, and then let us know their comments then a little over a month from now.
And even though there is no SEQR public hearing on a final environmental impact statement, because we have the incentive zoning hearing, we will take that comment, and as we've said multiple times, no decisions have been made, and you know, we'll conduct that public hearing.
And I'd just like to make a comment. First of all, I'm the only guy up here that's not a lawyer. And I'm just here to say, in layman's terms, all we have said here is our staff has said, and then we've reviewed it, that this is completed enough sufficiently for public review. and comment and input. We have not made any approval decisions on anything to do with this project other than this document we feel is complete enough at this point in time for public review and public scrutiny and input. So this idea of any backhaul deals or any kind of preeminent approvals on our part is sheer balderdash. It's rubbish, because this document is now sufficient, in our opinion, for review by the public. So that's why we're setting a public hearing. And we go almost ad nauseum
Ken, do you
on
wanna-
setting public hearings
I want Ken
for
to,
input.
I want Ken to refine.
Right, yeah, and I think, you know,
Always
what.
have to have a lawyer refine.
What
Like I
Council,
said. Go ahead.
what Councilman Vogel has explained is on point. The final environmental impact statement truly is the town's document, which will form the basis for the town board's review and analysis. So the town staff, Commissioner Keefe, our town planner Ramsey Boehner, I have reviewed it, others in our planning department have reviewed it, have determined that this is a complete document for the town and will form the basis of the town's decision-making process going forward. Now, in addition to all of that information in that 511 pages, the town is also going to be holding a public hearing on incentive zoning and receiving public comments on the environmental impacts, because we're not ruling out the possibility that folks can go ahead and make those comments. All of that will be part of the record that the town board will ultimately use in making its decisions. So the final environmental impact statement, while it's available for public review and public comment, and in fact, we will be having a public hearing on incentive zoning, the final environmental impact statement truly is the document for you folks, the town board, to review and to use in your decision-making process.
Thank you, Ken. Any further comments? Hearing none. Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Warner.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
I also vote aye, and again, I don't want to beat the dead horse, but I can't say strongly enough, we look forward to public input in whatever forum that public input takes place. We think that's important to get to the best place for all involved. I vote aye. The motion passes. Next matter, Jim.
Yes, next matter is to accept a donation. in the-
Robin.
Oh, yes, please get Robin.
I think Commissioner Keefe already walked out.
Perfect.
That'd be-
One step
Oh,
ahead.
hang on here a minute.
I assume that's where he went.
Yeah.
Even though he walks with a limp, he's one step ahead of me.
Okay, Jim,
All right.
the Veterans Memorial.
Yes. The next item is to accept a donation in the amount of $50 from Richard Vassy for the Veterans Memorial Fund. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Thank you to
Yes.
Mr. Bayassi. Any
Thank you so much.
support for the Veterans Memorial is important. Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Warner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Jim,
Next item is to approve to accept the donation in the amount of $500 from Howard and Daphne Cohen to support the Brighton Police Department. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
again, a very generous donation. Residents never are required to make donations to get the best police department in the world, or at least certainly in New York State. Maybe it is the world, working on their behalf. But I know Captain Cathaldi and Chief Henderson appreciate the support from the Cohens and from everybody else who shares that feeling. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute a stormwater maintenance agreement and all related easement agreements and documents in connection with the Pinnacle Hills subdivision project. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
We have a couple of items on the agenda tonight relating to the proposed Pinnacle Hill subdivision project. And this relates to a stormwater management agreement and supporting easements. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with Colonial Fire Protection Systems, Inc. to provide quarterly automatic fire sprinkler system testing at fire station located at 2695 West Henrietta Road. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Okay.
This is just ongoing testing at the West Henrietta Road firehouse that is served by the Rochester Fire Department, serving the West Brighton Fire Protection District. Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Chris?
It's a companion matter to my previous motion. This is to authorize the supervisor to authorize the town and execute any related documents with Woodstone Custom Home Science to approve abandonment of particular existing highway and public rights-of-way parcels in the town located in the proposed Pinnacle Hills subdivision project. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Ken, anything you want to say about those abandonments again?
No, this is just sort of a ministerial act. These are roads that were set out a while ago, a long time ago, never used.
So-called paper streets.
So-called paper streets, and there's a provision under the highway law that would allow the highway superintendent, Mr. Keefe, to file some documents with the town clerk to abandon these unused paper highways, and it's subject to approval of the town board. So if you authorize the highway superintendent to do that, he'll file that document, and magically there will no longer be those paper streets, and that means the development will have one less obstacle to overcome.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute a letter of engagement with Raymond F. Wager, CPA, to provide independent financial reporting, auditing, and accounting services for fiscal years 2018 through 2020. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This, we are in the final year right now of a longer-term agreement with the Raymond F. Wager accounting firm. We've had great service from them. It is cost-effective. We went out, solicited proposals the last time around. They were the lowest proposal, and so we inquired about the opportunity to get some price commitments in place for the future, and this reflects that. So we do, by the way, although this specifically authorizes 2018 through 2020, it also gives us the right to extend for up to 2 more years. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. One more there, Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to transfer a total of $4,815.85 from various departmental maintenance IT support accounts to various information technology systems department computer equipment accounts. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin?
The next item is the approval to appropriate $3,500 from the Seized Assets Funding Account to support a mental health first aid MHFA training program for the police department. I move to adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This will be an opportunity for one of our police officers to receive mental health first aid training, and then she will train the remainder of the department. It's a great arrangement, and it is certainly very important. Working with people who have various mental illnesses is unfortunately a regular occurrence for our department and for any police, any law enforcement agency. So this is important training. Anything further you'd like to say, Captain Cathaldi?
Supervisor, just that Officer Renee Fisher will be traveling to Atlanta, Georgia for a week of training. She'll bring this back to the department, and she will train all the patrol officers that have the potential of interacting with people with mental health issues. She has been on a part of our emotionally disturbed response team probably going on 4 years now, so she has a very high level of training in that field. She is our liaison to the representatives in that community, so this training benefit the department.
Thank you. Further comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Vogel?
Aye.
DePonzio?
Aye.
Warner?
Aye.
Wilt?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin?
The next matter is the approval to appoint a particular person as a part-time on-call school traffic guard effective January 22nd, 2018. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Just trying to get ahead back up here on my
Couple of things out of order there.
computer here. I'm sorry, what?
That's the point, Joanna Gregory.
Yes, correct, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Joanna Gregg, I was
Yes.
blanking on her name there, thank you.
Yeah.
We provide those crossing guards, and it's important to have backup, part-time on-call people. She will be providing that service. So Robin made the motion, I'm sorry, the second.
I provided.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Vogel?
Aye.
DePonzio?
Aye.
Warner?
Aye.
Wilt?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to set February 14th, 2018 as a public hearing date for the proposed extension number 101 to the Brighton Consolidated Sewer District relating to the Pinnacle Hill subdivision project. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Another Pinnacle Hills related matter, and we have one more left to go. Discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Council members Vogel?
Aye.
DePonzio?
Aye.
Warner?
Aye.
Wilt?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, that was a sewer district, and the next one is a drainage district. Chris?
The next item is to set February 14th, 2018 as a public hearing date for proposed formation of the Pinnacle Hills Drainage District relating to the Pinnacle Hills subdivision project. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Any discussion?
We're looking forward to the development of that area there. We've
Yeah.
looked at several different variations of it. I think this is the best.
This is less dense than the other
Lot of open
proposal
space
that was
gonna remain,
originally.
and,
Several acres. Yep.
And the dedication to the town of some land as well.
Yep.
Adding it to the Persimmon Park there.
Yep. We have that motion, a second. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel?
Aye.
DePonzio?
Aye.
Warner?
Aye.
Wilt?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
Yes, the next item is to authorize a permanent appointment of a provisional employee, Jeremy Lutz, as coordinator of data processing, effective January 24th, 2018. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Everybody wants to climb on Jeremy, because Jeremy
Right.
is a great employee. We got some good news. He had to take a civil service exam, and with flying colors. So he is now eligible to be hired off that civil service list. And I'm glad everybody wants to sell. You know, the whole house seconded that one.
Indeed.
Further comments? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye, and I'll call on our liaison to the library board to make the next.
Yes, the next matter seeks to appoint a particular person as a member of the Brighton Memorial Library Board of Trustees for a 5-year term effective immediately through December 31, 2022. And that person is Harriet Siegel. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Harriet is no stranger to anybody that knows the library. Harriet has been the president
that's
of
true.
the Friends of the Brighton Memorial Library. What a history she has of working with the library. So I'm very pleased to appoint her to this position. Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner. Aye. Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, Councilmember Wilt mentioned during the report on the Community Services Committee, the IDEA Committee, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisor Committee. And I really do appreciate, Robin, your advocacy for this, because it is important. Part of the discussion we had the other day in that committee, the discussion about inclusion and diversity plans, and I know we both had the opportunity to review plans from a couple of communities that were sent to us, and we have taken a number of actions over the years to support our vision of Brighton as an inclusive, diverse community. We have said it long and we've said it hard, diversity makes us strong. It's true. But this makes sure that we're really focused on diversity issues, focused on inclusion and on equity in a very broad way. The disabled, different racial members of our community, faith communities. This is a group that will be an advisory committee, but it will, as we both have discussed, be instrumental in the development of a diversity plan for Brighton that I think will only make our efforts better. You mentioned best practices. That's what they're going to be able to advise us on. So this action, you have a hard copy, authorizes an advisory committee. I think the first action, Robin had put together a working draft of a really mission statement, a charge for this group. That's probably the first thing we'll work on, and let's make no bones about it. If we're going to do this plan, which I also think is important, there will be some expense involved. We may well need to reach out for consulting assistance to do that. So, but in the end, it will make us a better community. So I would ask Robin if you would make the motion you have in front of us here.
In the matter regarding the formation of an Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Committee, I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner.
Aye.
Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Thank you. Just a couple of other matters. The informal reviews as part of our assessment revaluation are still going on. It is not too late to sign up for one. These are, as the name would suggest, informal. They are not adversarial proceedings. You have an opportunity to sit down with a member of our staff, present information about your home. Maybe it's its condition. Maybe we thought you had 5 bathrooms and you really only have 2. Who knows what it is that might affect the value. The easiest way to still do that is to sign up on our webpage, And while you're doing that, you'll also have the opportunity to review a tremendous trove of resources, helpful tips in terms of how the process works, what you might think about, comparable data, even broken down by, type of home. If you've got a ranch, you can look at other ranches that have sold. So that process is still going on, and, whether by phone or online, you can sign up. You can even submit in writing, and the assessor will review the material. All of that sign-up information is there on the Reval webpage. And I do want to mention tomorrow night I will be part of a panel that the Democrat and Chronicle is sponsoring at the JCC about property assessment in general. That starts at 5 o'clock. The other thing I wanted to mention, two sort of related items, winter items. We're on that temperature roller coaster right now. We've lost a lot of the snow, and that's exposed some leaves, and that gives our highway department the opportunity to continue picking up leaves that are still out there, and also the Christmas trees that people have brought out. It seems to me we have fewer and fewer live Christmas trees all the time, because I used to see those snowbanks. Every other house had a Christmas tree, and it just not quite the same. You don't pick up the artificial ones, just the live ones, but that's a good service. On a related note, whether or not it is snowing on any given night, whether or not, you think the crews may be out, overnight parking, in other words, parking from 2 in the morning till 7 in the morning, is illegal on all streets in the town of Brighton now through May 1st. April 15th. Never snows in May here. April 15th. November 1st through April 15th. So please, we are ticketing. The department has been out, and it really does. It impairs the ability of our crews to keep our streets safe, make their job easier. Bring your car inside. That's all I have. Matters of the town clerk.
I don't have any matters.
Matters of the board. Can I then have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Council members Vogel.
Aye.
DePonzio.
Aye.
Werner. Aye. Wilt.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye, I don't anticipate coming back out, so our next town board meeting is February 14th. As somebody mentioned, it's Valentine's Day. What better way to enjoy the day? Not. And we'll see you 7 o'clock then. Have a great evening, everybody.